And joining us now is Missouri Republican Senator Eric Schmitt. Senator, thank you so much for joining us.
Good to be with you.
So give us a sense. Do you anticipate any big confrontations surrounding any of President-elect Trump's nominee picks for the cabinet?
I don't think so. I think if you take a step back, President Trump won the popular vote. He swept all the battleground states. And I think he, was given a mandate by the American people. So I think he deserves the right to have his people in place. There'll be confirmation hearings. There'll be a lot of questions, as there always is. But I think he'll get the cabinet that he wants. He campaigned on that. He campaigned on taking on permanent Washington, sort of this disruptor versus establishment model. And he's delivering on that.
Now, obviously, you were apparently in the running for the AG pick before you pulled yourself out of that. Now there's a lot of controversy surrounding Matt Gaetz in particular for that job. How important is it for you to see that House Ethics Committee report on Gaetz?
Well, I think this is what, for me as a senator, that's what the confirmation process is for. So whether that comes out or doesn't come out, there's going to be questions at the confirmation hearing. There should be. But I'm pretty confident that Matt Gaetz is going to get through. I think all the president's nominees are going to get through.
You have said in the past that you feel that the FBI and DOJ are both ripe for reform. If we ask you to put back on your AG hat for a moment, which in particular aspects of them both would you reform?
Well, I think it's been politicized to a degree we've never seen before. This DOJ has gone after Catholics. It's gone after parents who showed up to school board meetings under the auspices of the Patriot Act. It's engaged in lawfare to put its chief political rival in jail for the rest of his life. This is Banana Republic kind of stuff. So I think DOJ, we got to get back to a place where it's respected and also get back to fighting violent crime.
And you have said, as you're just confirming there, that you do think that the DOJ particularly targeted President-elect Donald Trump. Once he is president, do you think that it's appropriate for the then Attorney General to target anyone who has gone after the president at that point?
I think what President Trump has said is that his revenge will be victory. And I think he's fully committed to unifying the country and delivering on the promises in the campaign trail. But I do think there ought to be consequences for people who engaged in this kind of activity. The idea that the number 3 person from DOJ went to New York to prosecute President Trump on a political prosecution, that the assistant prosecutor in Atlanta was coordinating with the White House, that Jack Smith was chosen specifically for this, even though it was ruled by a federal judge to be an unconstitutional appointment as a special prosecutor. You put all this stuff together, this was a very coordinated attempt by Joe Biden and his DOJ to go after his chief political rival. I just don't think that's the kind of thing we want in this country. So I don't think President Trump's ever indicated he wants to go after political rivals, but I do think DOJ, there has to be some accountability here. There has to be accountability.
He's mentioned the idea of retribution and revenge. You don't think that that's the same thing?
I think he said his revenge is victory. He's achieved victory, and I do think he wants to unify the country. I think he's reached out.
With regard to reaching out to, let's say, those 70-some million Americans who did not vote for him, what do you say to those Americans who are concerned that this was a clean sweep of Republicans and now it's just going to be everybody's going to be a rubber stamp for Donald Trump's agenda rather than what's for the greater good of Americans?
Well, I think you look at what actually happened in that election. Gains were made in every demographic, every region of the country. Black Americans, Hispanic Americans, white Americans, married Americans. I mean, you go up and down the list, and Donald Trump performed better than he did 4 years ago, and again won the popular vote, right? Won the popular vote and swept the battleground states. And what did he talk about on the campaign trail? It was very clear. Unleashing American energy, reducing spending and controlling the border, having operational control of the border. I think he's going to deliver on those promises. And the polling suggested that people trusted him more than Kamala Harris on all those important issues that affected their day-to-day lives. And so I think that's going to be his focus in his 4 years.
What do you think should be the priority on day one for this Republican-led Senate?
Well, I think for us, moving forward with the tax reform that was enacted in 2017 that's going to expire, I think we got to make sure that we have a tax code that works for working Americans. I think President Trump, by way of executive order, can do a lot of things that relates to the border. But if there are things we need to backfill, we should be willing to listen to that. And I also think unleashing American energy. Inflation's not some act of God. It turns out when you declare war on domestic energy production and you spend $1.4 trillion that you don't have, the cost of everything goes up. So I think we've got an opportunity to reduce inflation by unleashing American energy and controlling spending.
Senator Eric Schmitt, we thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate you coming on the show.
Good to be with you.